You're on.
Okay. Hey, everybody. Welcome to December 2015, last Inbound Lunch Bunch of the year. We are basically today doing a recap of 2015 and then getting on to think about 2016. So we're going to get right to it. We've got a lot to cover as always. And what I've done today is I pulled out at least one slide or so from all of the Inbound Lunch Bunch that we've had during 2015. And so I want to kind of pull it together because this was, of course, throughout 2015, put together in a specific way so we can kind of build up and touch on different topics in inbound marketing. And then we can kind of get situated for 2016 and make it a practical approach towards what we can do for maybe one campaign. And then as we bridge into 2016 for the Inbound Lunch Bunch program, it's been so popular, we'll continue it. We're going to survey everyone, find out more, but we're going to get more into like brass tacks. So this whole year was a kind of almost a survey course, and then we'll start getting into some deeper kind of applications of it in 2016 as a plan, unless you tell us differently. So let's start with looking at really where the journey we've had throughout 2015, and also any of these resources, if you have just joined Inbound Lunch Bunch in August of this year, or this is your first time, etc., remember that all of these recordings and slides and resources are out there so you can kind of backtrack and see what you maybe have missed and be able to pick up some of those resources. So we started the top of the year, and this program started in April. So we started in Q2, and we started with looking at what is the inbound marketing methodology to begin with. And so this is the inbound marketing methodology that HubSpot puts forward, and they're really the company that started the term inbound. Otherwise, you could just think of it as instead of push marketing, this is the content marketing approach of bringing people to you. But the term inbound is really something that they tried to coin and they tried to use. So when you hear that, remember it's actually really associated almost with a HubSpot play, although different providers now in the association market are picking it up and trying to use it and saying that they have this as well. So just, words the wise. So the inbound marketing methodology, or the approach of really what is social marketing, which is getting people to come to you, to voluntarily opt in, to be able to attract them with some sort of content, right, and not coerce them into action, and being able to take them through this journey and through what's called a funnel is really the basis of this inbound marketing methodology. And so that's what we've kind of broken down and talked about in different aspects all year. So the actual stages start with attract, convert, close, and delight. And through that process, you're really going from people that don't know you at all, or as my mom would say, don't know you from Adam. They would have no idea who you are. They don't know that your organization exists. They might not know that your certification program exists. They're not aware of your conference, and they're not thinking about you at all, right? And those are complete strangers. And the process is, how do we take those people and move them all the way through a really proactively designed approach so that they convert and become customers, or at the end of the day, they're taking the action that we want them to take. It doesn't have to become a customer or a member or join or become a conference person attendee, but oftentimes that's what, as the association, that's what we're trying to do. It could also be that you're trying to get them to take action, perhaps fill out some sort of advocacy effort. It could be to adopt a new behavior in like social marketing. So any of those things, that's the process. And so ideally inbound in its purest form, if I was to go through the entire phases here, is ideally suited for growth, right? And this is one of the reasons that it's becoming so popular, and we at HighRoad have seen without a shadow of a doubt how popular inbound is becoming and how much organizations are really adopting us and saying we need to do this, primarily because of this growth factor. So for the last 20-some years, most associations have been kind of in steady state growth. They've had pretty consistent, homogeneous populations that have been really contributing, et cetera, attending the conferences, attending the events, et cetera, and they have been in good, steady state for revenue, for population numbers, et cetera, and now we're seeing a shift as perhaps people are retiring, the consumer is changing, we need to grow, we need to get new millennials, we need to get Gen X more involved, whatever the case may be. We're in a stage now of needing to do lead generation and growth. And so for the first time, and also laws have changed, and I should note that. So before, when it was okay for an association to go buy an email list and go blast people in order to sell products and convert into membership, that is now not okay. You cannot legally do that. So things have changed where now we have to find other means to be able to convert people that don't know us into people that do know us, and then to take the people who do know us and really be able to greater engage and grow loyalty there and grow member insight. So the whole inbound marketing methodology, from our viewpoint in the association world, is using in that two-pronged factor. One is I need to attract people who don't know me at all and turn them into people who do know me and are engaged in some way. And secondly, I really need to shore up my base and know those people as much as I possibly can to get as much data about them as possible so that I can proactively service them and they will stay, okay? Because I can't grow while I'm losing out the back end, kind of bleeding out the back end for people who are leaving the association, because that's not good for my revenue streams and my numbers, right? So we need to shore up the population. For the attrition that we have, for people who are retiring or just going elsewhere, I need to be able to supplant that with new people and bring that into the funnel, and then hopefully grow even more from there. That would be that's where most organizations are in today's world. And the changes, again, are that the methods that we used to use of really, really hardcore push marketing and sales type of marketing, do you want to join, early bird, early bird, early bird, those things just don't work anymore, because this pesky consumer has changed, right? And things have changed about the buying journey and things like that. So we have to change with it. And so, again, associations are super interested in the inbound methodology because it's helping them to take that next step, to evolve, to learn how to use content, to be able to move people and use digital, I should say more specifically, digital channels, to be able to put my content out there, to attract the right people, again, to move them through this funnel. And so the inbound marketing methodology in the course that we started at the beginning of April sets out to kind of investigate these aspects that are very new to the association world. So many of the things that are used as tools within here on this slide of mechanisms for how we can attract new people are not necessarily new, but perhaps haven't been strategically employed in such a designed, purposeful way. So for example, I'd say the majority of associations took on a blog somewhere in the last 7 or so to 10 years. Most of them have taken on all the social media channels. Most organizations certainly have email marketing, certainly have a website, certainly have events, certainly have some sort of processes in place for how to do segmentation. So if they came to this event, I want to also offer them this product. Those things are not necessarily new. What probably is new is being able to think from the standpoint of, I have to do prospecting now and use digital channels to do that, and be able to then rein in as many people as possible, and finally be able to measure comprehensively without going to 17 different pieces of software and like going and rapping on the door of my IT department and annoying everyone. And I need to do all of this now. It's very important that I do all of this, not just comprehensively, but efficiently. Okay, hence the rise of marketing automation platforms. And that's why you're now seeing HubSpot and Marketo and things like that come into, and you're seeing all of the email vendors try to add on, features that say they're an inbound marketing platform. You're watching content management system vendors try to add on features to say that they're an inbound or marketing automation platform. That's why you're seeing that. Because organizations are realizing we have to have this. This is no longer a nice to have. We have to do it now. And our current infrastructure is not going to work. So the inbound marketing methodology, that's why the rise of it is here. That's the way that people are trying to go that from, again, taking a stranger, being able to use content as bait to get them to be attracted to you so they kind of bite onto the content, give you some information. We can get into a dialogue digitally that I can do as effectively as possible. I can gain more knowledge about that person and lead them down the path to say, Are you a good fit? Here's what I have to offer. Here's what you have to offer. Do we want to have some sort of value exchange and you buy in some format, whatever buy-in might mean, whether that's actually make a purchase, actually register, participate in some way, become a subscriber to your newsletter, become a subscriber to your online community, whatever buy-in might mean. All right. So from that, we then kind of started talking about the funnel. Okay. So this funnel, this is kind of looking at the same idea of I'm going from awareness down to purchase and now putting it into a funnel formation. Understanding that my ability to attract the prospects out there, the people who don't know me at all, is considered the top of the funnel. So I need to cast a wide net. Now, having done that, I don't want just anybody probably to be a member or a donor or a registrant. It's still a specific group of people that I'm going after. So I have to get targeted as to who I'm talking about and who I'm trying to attract. So I need to still do that step. Let's not forget this. But once I've done that, I do have this funnel formation where I'm trying to take people at the very top, cast a wide net, and get people, again, to rather take my bait, which I'm using as content, and get them to deliver down into this funnel to kind of move through it and nurture them down there to take some sort of action that I have prescribed for them. And along this funnel, I want to study them at every stage possible. I want to get continuously smarter so I understand their preferences, I understand what they like, what they don't like, what's appealing, etc. Because again, people are a little bit like birds of a feather. If one person likes it or a group of people like it, and that's my target group, I can probably find other people who also will like those things. So we play a little bit of a probability social marketing game in terms of how do you market to populations. And so we want to start thinking about marketing, and we want to understand at the individual's level, at the kind of group level, as well as my overall, let's say, membership level. We need all three levels now of understanding, okay? Because at the end of the day, we're an association. It would be great if we could do nothing but one-to-one marketing, but in reality, right, we're doing population-based marketing. And you don't hear that term a lot. That's social marketing, not social media marketing, social marketing. But that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to take a population and move it and get them to do a prescribed set of activities, all right? And so this is the funnel, and we talk through that probably around, I think that's also the April-May time period. So looking at the funnel from a different way, then we started to map in content and say, how do these content items or content assets, how do they map into the funnel? How are other organizations using these things? And how can I start thinking strategically at my organization about how to map in the content that we have to understand, are we attracting new people? And if we're not, maybe why not? And do we have these things that help us to grow and or help us to become more loyal? And for most associations, what you find out is that they have a ton of content right in the middle of the funnel, okay, and some at the end, but most of it's all mid-funnel. So for example, at the top of the funnel, items like really great blog posts and articles that are exposed, meaning exposed not behind members only, infographics, videos, maybe some of your research, being able to have those not behind the members only firewall, if you will, the member login, but out in the open on your publicly available properties, whether that's your website or your event site or your blog or your social channels like YouTube and Twitter and LinkedIn and things like that. All of those things are important because they get indexed by search engines, okay? And so if I need to attract people and I need to get them to come to these things, I need to be able to tell them that they're out there, and in today's world that largely means doing so through social media and perhaps digital advertising. And so if you look at a typical association marketing budget and you say, where's your line item for digital marketing? It's usually not present or it's very small. If you say, hey, how are you doing on Google AdWords? A lot of times you don't see that. People are running Google Analytics, but they have really, if you look to say what's exposed in terms of what's really interesting content, most associations say our good stuff is behind the login, or our big benefit is our members-only newsletter, and only members get that. So then you start saying, why aren't you growing? And it becomes clear that you can't grow because no one, one, knows you're out there, because you don't have anything out there in social media or digital advertising to get new people there, right? And two, even if I came to your website through search or something like that, and I just that day was like, hey, is there an association for, for people who need easier ways to do Christmas shopping, let's say, and I'm looking for something, and I come to your website, there's nothing there to engage me because it's all something that I have to have joined first in order to get, okay? Or I already have to be a member to get the good stuff in the newsletter. And so what you find is that this top of the funnel is one of the areas that associations are really weak in, because for the last 20 years, it's all been about retention, right? Not attraction. So now that we're moving into expanding to be also acquisition oriented, we find we need a lot of content out there, or we have the content. We have to change perhaps mindsets and things for how to expose it to be able to get it search engine friendly, search engine optimized, and then also to do things out there in the world like digital advertising through LinkedIn or Twitter or Facebook or all sorts of other ways to get people to my site. Because most organizations are in this continuous loop that looks like this. I send a ton of email and it brings people back to my website, and I'm trying to get them to make a transaction. I send a ton of email. I'm trying to get people to come back to my website to make a transaction. And that is a closed loop, because no new people are coming into the email subscriber pool, because most associations don't have a prospect-only newsletter. Most associations don't have a way to sign up for the newsletter on the website or on Facebook or a custom page out there. And most associations hopefully have stopped buying email lists to add to the subscriber pool. So if you wonder why are we not seeing huge growth in our sales and things like that and our numbers, well, you know what? We keep selling to the same group of people, and there's only so much share of wallet you're going to get, and there's only so many different ways that we can do that, unless now we have a really good land and expand strategy, right? But most of us are applying kind of this regular retention strategy onto a little population of people, and all we're really doing is constantly just kind of hitting them up with new things that they can buy from us without really having a growth pattern for them, right? So we have a double problem. So we don't have a lot of this really search engine friendly content, things like that, that's been designed to attract and to be designed to bring people in and showcase, give social evidence of why it's important and like what you get out of being a member. For most of us, in most of our pricing structures are still dictated on, I'm already a member and you've already bought into why it's great, instead of us thinking like we have to go and get people. Nobody's going to just give us their money and then they're going to say, oh, look, I'm glad I got the members-only newsletter. Yeah, that was definitely worth my $395. It doesn't work that way anymore. The buyer's not going to do it. So we have to really allow them, and we talked a lot about in previous conversations this year, they've got to be able to do try before you buy. They have to experience the value before they're going to make their commitment of their dollars and time to us. Okay, and that's a huge, mind-blowing shift in the association world, which we take for granted, and that's how we are as consumers nowadays, but we somehow think it's different for our association when we're trying to recruit in new members or registrants, et cetera. So we talked a lot about that. Again, the mid-funnel type of content of having actually webinars and ebooks and guides and presentations and research, that's kind of where those pieces would fall in. This is where a lot of that, maybe some of the, from a member perspective, the newsletters and things would fall. And then kind of the bottom content is what really then has been designed to help people get over the line and say, yes, that's what's going to handle, that's what's going to do it for me to become an exhibitor, to become a sponsor, to become a member, to become a registrant, to become a participant, to become a volunteer, chapter leader, any of those things. The type of content that really has been designed to help provide the answers or the solutions to common challenges or objections for why people wouldn't take the action. So most associations have a lot in the middle that we can leverage, and we need to kind of do more at the top and we need to do more at the bottom, especially if we're talking about trying to grow new people that don't know us. Okay, and it's a little bit different. Remember, there's kind of the flow, there's kind of the funnel for growth and acquisition from people that don't know us at all. And then there's kind of a different funnel for I'm trying to do retention, and I'm trying to do loyalty engagement marketing, which is different. Retention is kind of like a hold steady. Engagement marketing is I'm trying to grow people that are already currently a customer, if you will. And so we need to kind of probably in 2016 start to really break those apart. But we talked about that and starting to try to think behind the scenes of mapping my content and my association to start saying, what do I have at the top of the funnel, middle of the funnel, and end of the funnel? Then along the year, we started bringing in this idea, since we're talking about that, of what's called the buyer's journey, or the buying process. And so the buying journey goes from, again, I have zero awareness of you, and I'm not thinking about the association for making Christmas shopping easier whatsoever. And then all of a sudden I see like an ad, or I see something come in front of my worldview, that I become aware of your organization and what you have to offer, right? And then if something piques my interest and I become interested in it, and you're starting to hit my pain point at the same time as you're providing some sort of remedy for it, you have my interest. And then I start to investigate more and more. That's the evaluation stage. I start to consider whether or not what you are trying to get me to do seems to match up with what it is that I want to do, right? So I start doing the what's in it for me evaluation part. So I'm now aware of you. You've got my attention. I perhaps have given you my email address. I said, yeah, okay, I'm interested in hearing a little bit more about what you have to say. Okay, I'll hear you out. Let me get some interest here. Let me get some evidence of what you have. Let me try it. For many organizations, that is something like downloading research reports, using landing pages to be able to give them an offer, or allowing them to have a free webinar, things like that. So again, it's giving a little so you can get a lot. Again, for many organizations, that's a new thing too, this idea of, hey, we give anything away, especially in terms of content, is often contentious, and it's often like a big shift it's a big paradigm shift. But it's something that is the nature of today's consumer, that they need to try before they buy, and they need to really experience it. And by the way, a discount is not doing it. So just because I get $10 off of the webinar, it's still not going to make me take advantage of the webinar when I don't know you at all, and I don't know if any of your content is going to be good. So even if for members it's $59, and for me, it's going to be like $60 or something, and I'm getting $10 off the normal non-member $75, that gives me nothing, because I still don't know that my $60 is going to be well spent, right? You have not made the case for me at all. Discounting does not work in this scenario, in this world, okay? So that's another really big premise that oftentimes we have to kind of work through with organizations, because we've been very schooled in the association market of member, non-member discounting. And that is something that we really probably need to really critically analyze as we go forward, as to how much we have been moving populations to take purchasing actions based on discounting. And in the world of price-based marketing, the use of discounting is considered, there's reasons to do it from a market perspective. It's also considered a little bit on the lazy side. And I'll just rip the Band-Aid. It's a lazy way of getting people to buy. And it has nothing to do with loyalty and long-term kind of top-line growth. So something to, consider. It's, not to say it's wrong, but it all depends. It's all contextual. We then moved on to the actual kind of piece of that of talking about the purchase stage. So once, what do we have to do again to get them over the line, to get them to make the purchase and be able to assess, what actually worked, right? So then we want to start measuring what made it work in terms of getting people to actually take the desired action, and then can we replicate it? What have we learned from it? How much did it cost us? What is our cost of acquisition, and things like that. But this buying process, again, from an inbound side, from a digital side, is saying, do we have the right content and digital mechanisms in place to bring them through that process? Here's another look at the buyer's journey. So always starting to map out, because remember, we're talking about content planning today, we have to kind of begin with this. Do we have the right content that can entice people to become aware of us? Have we put it into the right channels in the right location? If we can then get them to give us something, and that us something is typically the email address, that's kind of the the big thing that we're going for, because that allows us, because once I have the email address and they've coughed up some personal information about themselves, usually email address, maybe first name, last name, but just email address, I then can start to communicate on a one-to-one, more personal basis. And throughout the year, we've tried to also paint the picture. And goodness knows, we try to preach this one at HighRoad, which is that the word blast and the word email should never go together. And if you're putting those things together, you are abusing the entire nature of the email channel. Email is not fax. It is not a blast type of option, and especially in today's world, and especially as you go to a younger and younger demographic, email is a very intimate communication form. It is, social media is blast, if you want to think of it that way. Email should be a one-to-one communication, because I have given you my email address, which I expect you in today's world to be able to care for and respect my giving of that personal address. Think of it like I just gave you my home address. I don't expect you to come and just, stick up all your political campaign signs in my front yard without asking. I'm doing this out of, it's a trusted channel of communication. So if you're not giving me content that's specific to me, you're taking advantage of the fact that I just gave you my email address. Again, big shift in the association mindset about email. Okay, the corporate mindset of email has been going through this one for quite a while, and that's why corporations have invested so heavily in their email platforms and putting in technology to make it as personalized as possible. It's all hopefully based on, the really good ones that do it, it's all based on, my shopping history in the past and what I might like and what I could do, and it's all timed to be according to what's in it for me, what I want. And so associations are really adopting that quickly. And hopefully we're helping to move people out of the blast kind of email thing. But back to the buyer's journey, again, we're talking about how do we tie that together. So what kind of content do I have to, again, move people to perhaps giving me the email address, and that's moving from awareness to consideration. And then once I'm in consideration, how am I communicating now on a more one-to-one basis to get them to move through this, again, journey or this funnel to try to make a decision about whether we're a good fit. Can we be partners, if you will, right? Can we be organization and member? Can we be, conference and event attendee? And how can we be able to make that then personal connection and relationship as mutually beneficial as possible and as close as possible so that this individual trusts me and will continue to hand over more and more information about him or herself, so that I can take that and care for them in a better way. Because the more I know, the better I can serve you. And that is this implicit understanding in today's world about when I become a member. So if I give you my email address and my credit card information and my address, right, I'm expecting you to now treat me as this individual, personal, very important person and respect that piece of it and not talk to me like I'm everybody else, right? And then to give me products and services that are designed for me, and that this what's in it for me becomes the pervasive premise of today's consumer. So the buyer's journey, again, kind of if you want to think of it from awareness, how do I get in front of people who don't know me at all, probably through social media, digital advertising are usually the two top things, getting them to come back to my site, come back to something, perhaps a landing page, be able to give me some personal information. The value exchange happens at consideration, right? So usually the email address, and then to go into a more one-to-one personal communication pattern where I'm nurturing them along to hopefully take some sort of prescribed action that I want them to take, and or to learn from them if they don't take it to see where kind of we went wrong. That's the buyer's journey, and organizations need to map this out so that you can understand where your content fits and what you're missing to help you to see how you can create what's called lift, or more people who are actually taking the desired action. So to then go further than that, we went into talking about buyer personas and how they fit in. So if I need somebody to go down this funnel and take this journey, I need to know, am I just talking to anyone can take the journey, or are there particular types of people that I really want that are going to make for exceptional members? And for most organizations, the answer is you don't want everybody. You can't serve everybody. It's not cost and resource efficient. And also usually it dilutes your ROI, or kind of your margin, if you will, per member or attendee. What you want are the people who are the ideal clients, or the ideal member, or the ideal registrant or donor. You want this like-minded group of people who operate kind of the same way, right? That are your the good kind of customers. And that's where personas usually come in. And there's positive and negative personas. Negative personas are the people that are perhaps a squeaky wheel, that don't pay, that always are asking for discounts. That's the kind we don't want. Okay, we don't have, because this is now the world of, we're totally not in the all, everybody gets a trophy. This again blows up the big mess. All members are not the same. People have different lifetime values to the membership. We can't treat them all the same because we don't have infinite resources, time and money to do that. So we have to actually focus that, and to do that well, and to go and to grow effectively, we're going to get very focused. And buyer personas are a tool that helps us to do that. So we talked through multiple sessions this year about buyer personas and how to create them and what's composed of them. But the bottom line is that it's helping you to get laser focused about who I want to attract, and then I'm going to apply my content and say, how would this buyer persona interact with the content? What's going to get, in this case, this is Electronic Retailing Association, they shared their buyer persona with us earlier this year. What's going to get a marketing Mike to make the decision to attract him? What's going to be interesting to marketing Mike? If he sees this out in a LinkedIn ad, if he sees this out in social media, if he sees this out and I can get him back to my blog, what's going to entice him to say, this is something I need. I need this association. Like, this is good stuff. How do I get more of it? How am I going to get in front of marketing Mike? What's going to attract him? And then how can I get him, what's going to compel him, let's say, to take the action of perhaps giving me his email address? And once he does that, how am I going to continue to reel in Mike to get him more and more interested so that he actually spends money with us or decides to make some sort of more measurable commitment of whatever it is I'm desiring him to do? How do I get him to do that? And so we talked about the persona is helping the organization get laser focused on talking about the types of events or content or things that are going to appeal to Mike and that will get him to take the desired action. That's important because this is the antithesis of kind of one size fits all, right? Now, and when I'm designing my newsletter, when I'm designing my event, when I'm ready to launch a new product, when I'm thinking about what webinar topic should I have for this 2016 year, I'm saying if Marketing Mike is our ideal client and we're getting 60% of our revenue from the Marketing Mikes of the world and we need more Marketing Mikes, what's the content the Marketing Mike wants? Okay, that helps us to be able to get laser focused and on the right topics and and areas of interest to be able to grow. That very much helps push the editorial calendar. It should push the professional development calendar. It should really help on the curriculum side because that's what's going to be popular. And if you do it, no surprise, Marketing Mice will love it. You can engage them further, and then hopefully they can also be influencers to others and tell other people. But understanding when you're saying I need to do content planning, if you don't have the buyer persona and you don't know who you're really creating content for, the best you can do is kind of this all-purpose, delights nobody but offends no one either. You're taking a very safe play, which means that it's not that you won't be successful with it. It just means that your level of success is going to be pretty average because you're kind of spreading your bets there. So you're going to put out an average product and you're going to get an average response, right? Which is different than super focused on making a product, making it really, really personalized and for a specific audience, and you get great results of that, okay? So we're moving again from quantity to quality, right? And it has to be, again, niche focused in order to do this kind of targeted growth. And buyer personas are one of those ways that we can do that. We can do that at the individual level or the company level as well. So we talked about buyer personas and some of these things. At the end of the day, A buyer persona is really it's a fictitious representation of our ideal, and you fill in the blank: client, member, registrant, donor, advocate, etc. It is our fictitious thing, and we're going to describe this person, give them a name, put an image to them, talk about their goals and their problems, the day in the life, how they shop, understand them comprehensively as a human, okay? And I'm saying now, and the conversation I should have within the walls of my association, when I'm thinking about my conference or I'm thinking about promoting my conference, I should be asking things like, what would Mike think? What would Mike want to know, right? What would other people like Mike want to know about the conference? What's going to appeal to him? Is this the right food? Is this the right location? Is this the right venue? Are these the right speakers? Is this the right content? Is this the right format for the newsletter? Where is Mike going to read the newsletter? Is he going to be at Starbucks on a Saturday morning? Is he sitting at his kid's, soccer practice? Where is Mike? And do we really understand everything there is to know about Mike, right? What kind of car does he drive? Is he married? Did he go to college? Where did he go to college? What country is he in? All those things matter, okay? And so as we start to design from a more user experience viewpoint, personas are something that you see over and over again, because it helps to get the organization, one, unified, two, really, again, helps to hone and focus the offerings, and regardless if they are product or service or event type of offerings, and helps you to get in front of these kind of objections and challenges you might have. And you get to understand as an organization how you actually are providing a true measurable benefit to the Mikes of the world. So along the lines, I should have buyer persona, and I can say in here, what are the pain points that marketing Mikes of the world have today? And how is your association solving them? Okay, how do you fit in? What's the benefit that you're providing that allows Mike to say, this is the best spend of money I have all year? All right, that is probably another critical, mind-blowing element, because it's very different than saying, my benefits are our annual conference and our member newsletter, okay? Those aren't benefits, those are vehicles, okay? The benefit has to be of how is it aligned with a challenge or something that this person, this group of people is facing or that they're trying to accomplish, and how your organization is fitting into that. And buyer personas are being used more and more to help to elucidate kind of those answers. So we talked about those. Now getting back to content, because that's all this kind of strategic stuff that's critically important and almost brand spanking new to the association market as kind of disciplines of marketing to put in place. But then what we do is once we kind of have these things and we've mapped out at least some of them, we start to map our content back to these things. So we start to actually say, great, now if what we're trying to do is attract and get more people like Marketing Mike to join our organization, what kind of content do I have at each one of those stages of the funnel, and how am I going to employ them strategically and in what time frame to be able to move this prospective Marketing Mike through the funnel to get them to join, let's say. And ERA earlier this year shared one of their content maps with us, and this is kind of how they mapped it out. So they have their content offer title, and then they have mapped it to their buyer's journey stage so they can make sure that they have content at each one of those levels to help move that person through, and that they have actually thought through both the content type, the topic, what stage it is, and also what channel, how they're going to use that content in order to move that person. And that content mapping stage is, again, very important. And again, usually if you take it case by case, like let's say join new member, let's say renew members, let's say become a first-time attendee at the conference, go to the conference a repeated time, buy a product, go to a webinar, any of those types of things, and we take the kind of use case, if you will, and then do my content mapping against the funnel and content type, et cetera. That's going to really help us to understand, have we thought through the buyer's journey and how we're going to string that content together, okay? That means that all of our content now, the way we're designing our content, the way that we're going to put it out there has completely shifted in premise. I'm not doing it based on the calendar, per se. I'm not just trying to plug in numbers and say, every Thursday we have our monthly, we have our newsletter go out and just stick stuff in there and let the user figure out what's pertinent to them. This is completely the other way around. This means I've designed from a user-first viewpoint, user experience first. Their need is what is driving my content marketing as a whole, okay? Not what's convenient to me as a staff level, not what we've always done, not that's just because that's how it's mapped out and that's the only time we get to send an email. None of that stuff that matters anymore. All those premises are just kind of like X out and wrong, because it's only now about what the user and the user experience and being user driven. And now the question becomes, do I have the technology to be able to execute on that? Do I have the right digital means in there to collect that information to get to know the user more and more and more? And do I have the data mining tools to be able to understand and continue to gain member insights? And just to wrap that up, if you remember, that's why it's called HighRoad U, because the U is for us constantly all year long pushing on user-driven, user experience, user-initiated. It has to be from the user first. Everything now is premised on the user, not from organizational efficiency and things like that. So technology is now really also shifting to make sure that the premise is also changed. We need the technology to be doing the heavy lifting and the things that technology can actually help us, like scalability. And we need the human part on our staff to be thinking and having conversations like we're talking about right now, like being able to map this out and come up with ideas and saying what kind of content do we need and what we do. That's the staff that we need, which is why all year we also talk about workforce development and teamwork and the type of staffer you now need. You don't need your staffers cutting and pasting email all day. That is not a good use of efficient human capital, and it's not going to get your organization forward. We're not going to make any big steps if we're still cutting and pasting content into email and testing it on 17 different email clients, and that's what we're doing all day long because that time is too needed. It's too valuable. Unless you guys have endless amounts of budget and resources to keep hiring people. But we can't keep doing things by hand. We have to kind of get into manufacturing and allow the technology to do that heavy lifting piece of it, because we need our staff thinking and being creative and doing this intellectual type of work now. That's another big shift that we're seeing come into the association market. Hence why everyone's talking about automation, right? So automation is going to free up staff time and allow us to have staff time that can really take on thinking about buyer personas and journey mapping and things like that. And that's why that's coming. That's why we're having Inbound Lunch Bunch, so we can help move the market there to get us into these types of jobs, because 10 years ago people were cutting and pasting an email and that was great, but we're bridging into 2016 and we have to get past that, or we're not going to be able to be where we need to be in order to grow our organization and have the right skill sets and right intelligence on staff, meaning business intelligence, to drive the business forward. So after we did that, just to recap again, another way to look at the funnel, and remember again, bringing it again, what we're trying to do with our content mapping. So I like this one a lot because it brings it all together in a vertical format, which seems to work for my brain. So again, remembering we're trying to go from the top of the funnel, or called tofu, for strangers. What content do we have in there to attract them? What channel am I going to put it in? What's the format it needs to be? Do I have people on staff, or can I partner with organizations like HighRoad who can help me get to this point and understand what kind of content I need, how I need to drive this through, what are the technologies out there, how do I put them together, how do I make them efficient, and drive people from stranger to visitor to lead to customer. And then ultimately, ideally, I'm going to get people who are evangelists or promoters, and those people can go out and spread the word for me on our association's behalf and go get more people like it. Okay, so from a population marketing, social marketing effect, if I have a marketing Mike and he's my ideal client, he's like the best member, he pays us, he doesn't hassle us, he's not trying to game the system on events, he exhibits, all those things, and he's super influential, and he knows more people like him, that's the person I need to go out and to help bring in other people. Because in today's world, word of mouth marketing is is gold, and it means more than the organization just trying to tell people you need to join. What I need to do is find my marketing Mike and get him to tell other people to bring more people like him to me. Hence why the rise of testimonials and case studies and the narrative, the storytelling, is so at the top of everyone's marketing game, because it's far more powerful for a peer to say, you know what you need? You need to join this association like I did, because here's what I get out of it, than you, the brand, now saying, you need our association because it's going to give you this benefit, right? And we see that over and over in corporate marketing. So if you just sit down and you watch, a good couple hours worth of TV and watch the advertisement, you can see things have quickly changed to having a storytelling capacity. It's no longer the brand saying, buy my product, use my product, you will become, healthier, sexier, richer, etc. It's now people saying from their point of view, from this personal story. And that's why, because again, the consumer has changed. So something to think about when you're doing your content planning, to say, are we constantly telling people how great we are? Or do we have the right evangelists who are ideal members or attendees or donors, etc.? Are they the ones, is it in their voice, is it in their tone? Are they the ones who are really evangelizing for us? They should be the ones doing the marketing for you. In today's world, it's very hard to build your own brand. You really need somebody else to do that, and the way that institutions are doing that is through the voice of individuals attached to the institution, or focusing in on the outcome of what the benefits are. Hence why you've watched again organizations move, and this is any entity, from being dictators of here's what you'll get and here's what you'll do, to being facilitators. So they're now just saying, hey, we're a great platform to just be able to focus and leverage and showcase what our members are doing. Here's the great things that our members are doing who are part of that. And they're now becoming curators and facilitators. And that's kind of this new world, again, premise for associations now. Instead of trying to, constantly tell people here's what to do, they're trying to perhaps get other people to do the promotion on their behalf. And that has much greater success. And actually, ERA early this year talked about one of their really successful campaigns, where the whole campaign was from the voice of the members and was really in modeling, like, here's successful members, and that created demand for other members to say, how do I get to be that person, and I want to be that person. And that type of social marketing is highly, highly effective. Think of it this way. If a brand says to you, you should eat, or like the Department of Health and Human Service says to you, you should eat 5 fruits and vegetables a day, and they just keep telling you that, how compelled are you to do that? It's very different if somebody that you really look up to and trust and want to emulate says to you, I eat 5 fruits and vegetables a day, and here's what it's doing for me. Huge difference. So just that's the approach nowadays, and that is social marketing at its best. So again, another way to look at the buyer's journey, and this now introducing the idea of life cycle stage. This came in about mid-year or so as we got closer into the summertime. And remembering that life cycle stage is all now about moving this person. Once I get into consideration, I now have a little carve-out, if you will, of actually looking at moving this person through my opportunity management cycle. And here is where sales and marketing overlaps. And while sales tends to be a dirty word in the association world, we all know we do it, and we should probably just talk about sales enablement and understand that it's not a dirty word. It's a true thing and a process of how we can move people from being a prospective lead and getting them more qualified until they're really ready to be in a buying cycle, and then getting that buying cycle closed until they become a customer. And understanding, again, the metrics and the methods here for being able to do that. Then we talked about, on the content side, really now getting into more brass tacks about what are some of the things, and what maybe perhaps some of the areas that associations somewhat new to them maybe, of types of content that organizations use to do this attract type of approach. How do I get people to give me their email address, if you will? And we talked about landing pages in a good amount of depth, where we talked about kind of what is today's modern standards for landing pages, kind of best practices on forms, how you can be able to put these things out and usually kind of exchange content. So I fill that out and I get something, downloadable book, I get research, I get a webinar, I get something for it, and then how, if we can do this, we can measure across multiple different areas. We can measure where the person came from, so the source of it. We can measure whether or not they actually converted on the form, like they filled it out and submitted. And we can also measure what they did with perhaps the content afterwards. Did they read it, et cetera? And then what did they do from there on out? Could we then serve up more information to continue to nurture them again now that we're in that consideration cycle? And we talked about best practices for both having a landing page that's an offer page, and then once they fill it out, to have best practices for the thank you page, and why this is a great cross-sell, upsell time right here. Just like, I should add, one of the hot new things to think about for 2016 in content and content planning, which you might say, I didn't think about that, but one of the hottest ways to do this, one of the greatest times that you have somebody's attention is after they've purchased something through your shopping cart. So let's say that they just registered for something or purchased something through your AMS shopping cart. Those emails that come out of there, those e-commerce receipts, are usually not ever thought about again, but they are from, they couldn't get better on the cross-sell, upsell opportunity. So if you haven't thought about unplugging your AMS's email system and plugging in like something that we do, we call it ICE, something like that, you might want to think about that, because there's a great time to do cross-sell, upsell promotion on the content, because it's already purchased something or registered for something. That's a great time to say, people like you also like these things. I'm getting the testimonials, the recommendations, etc., and it's close to, that's what works for Amazon, and they seem to be doing pretty well. So something else there to model and emulate. And of course, we like those things because they're all trackable, and it gives me additional insight into what people are doing, meaning what are they clicking on, what are they looking at, where do they come from, where do they go, etc. All right, we also talked about using call to actions, and call to actions are kind of they've been used a ton in digital marketing, CTAs or something that's like a thing that you just know if you're in the world of digital marketing. But many organizations haven't been thinking of them in that way, and especially thinking about call to actions in the sense that they can be this big kind of graphic. So here are the Get Toolkit of the month, August, you're seeing that in our blog, and that organizations can start using call to actions that are really appealing to today's user that has a attention span less than a goldfish, right? You have like a couple of seconds, like 2, in order to attract them. So again, call to actions can be highly effective in getting people to take action and get their interest decayed, because I might skip over the entire text here and my eye goes directly to Get Toolkit of the month, August, and I see SEO and I'm like, that's for me. So call to actions, we spent some time talking about best practices and what people are using. And also here's a great example, as go big. We talked about that. If you need to attract people, nowadays associations are very scared of going big and keeping it super simple. We're still like in 15 years ago in our content writing and copy where like we over-explain things to people because we're afraid they're not going to get it. That's probably one group of your people that you're talking to, but I bet by doing that you're also turning off perhaps a huge group of people that you do want. So being able to, again, align the method and the content and the look to be aligned with the persona that we're actually trying to attract is something that we have to increasingly get good at, okay? And we have to really say, if it has to be one size fits all, we better decide what size that is, okay? Because a lot of organizations are being held up because they're saying, well, our board member says this, or we've never done this before. And the standards they're using, just keep ripping that Band-Aid off in 2015, are not something that's appealing to, let's say, a growth-minded 25-year-old who has a whole different viewpoint on what is considered acceptable in look and feel and function in today's modern world. So something to consider, because we have to say, what is our de facto standard, and is it up to standard of where we are in today's world of 2015. And just from we spent a lot of time doing email and web stuff at HighRoad. I'll tell you, we got a lot of stuff that comes our way that it's not up to standard. It's not responsibly designed. It's not big enough. It's not bold enough. There's too much description. The premise is the user is stupid and doesn't know how to use a website or email in today's world. And that is not the case because these technologies are nowhere near new. They're not new at all. And the more modern technology you get, Facebook doesn't come with a big description about, 4-page guide on how to use it. It needs to be inherently, natively, instinctually understandable to the right user. And it's something really, as a whole, we're struggling with because associations are now trying to service the needs, right, of a population that is spanning multiple generations. So things to think about that. Later on in the year, we then went on to talk about creating digital experiences online. So how do we have as many touch points to collect data as possible? And how do we, again, start to actually show personality and start to have some sort of entertainment quality? Because also in today's consumer, the cut and dried and super corporate, we're just going to give you the facts, ma'am, nothing but the facts, doesn't really work anymore. Today's consumer is used to being mobile, they're used to being plugged in, they're used to electronic, everything and communications, which means that now, again, we're past the point of them functionally working with these content and tools. We got to now start to entertain them. And you're seeing that come up now in the association world while they try to struggle to figure out what kind of brand personality and what's okay to be able to show. And again, 10 years ago, it would never have been okay to show any personality or any sort of humor and things like that. And now organizations are saying, this is hurting us if we don't do that. So again, other kinds of examples of creating great user experiences online, doing more intelligent content recommendations, again, taking on more of a concierge role in being able to help or, help have content that I'm repurposing, that I have tools out there like this is using Bright Info to allow me to serve up to my member and be in a curating concierge role to not make the member work for it. I should already be personalizing it for them, for what they're doing, and it's contextual because that's what technology can do for me. Okay, so now I'm taking the burden onto the organization to do it and not onto the user, helping to delight them further. And that's what we also call intelligent contextual email, or ICE. So even like putting out newsletters that are completely populated automatically based on content that is correlated to what the individual said they're actually interested in, right? So not giving them superfluous information or just giving them, here's all the information we have and you figure out what's pertinent to you. Instead, reversing that. That's again, that piece of it is good for the organization and staff. It's also a little bit lazy in today's world. Instead, you want to have content that's chosen and has been driven by the actual user's preferences, because that way they're getting what they want and they say, hey, that has good value for me and I want to continue to engage. Lastly, we talked about campaign components and really how to measure them and making sure that we have these things mapped out in our content plan. We don't want to put things out there where we haven't thought through all of our channels and how we're going to map those things together and measure them. Okay, and remembering when we talk about content marketing, content planning, we got a whole bunch of channels and a whole bunch of touch points that we can leverage. And we want to start really getting good at having our list of all of our content kind of channels and touch points. It's just easier to call them touch points. At all the places where we can start saying, have I mapped in all my touch points to my awareness, consideration, and buying cycle? Which leads us up to the last kind of part of then really saying, do I understand how I'm going to do this measurement and how I'm going to map these things together, okay? Which gets us to now talking about 2016. And really what we're going to do is employ everything we just talked about and start mapping out our own roadmap for doing all of these things we just talked about all year and putting it in practice for our own association. So 2 things I'm going to leave with you today are, one thing I would recommend everybody do, if possible, as either when you have a little bit of downtime for the rest of this year or the beginning of next, is something that's called the content maturity model. And really taking a hard look and thinking about your content as a whole, content as a broad term for that, of all of your assets in the organization, and saying, where are you? If you had to rate yourself, where are you along these stages of maturity? It's a great self-assessment tool for you to start to then identify, maybe we're world-class in email marketing, which frankly, most associations really should be at this point. You've been doing this for a long time. And if you're not world-class, you're definitely, I guarantee, at stage 3 of mature. It probably means you're ready to go to stage 4, which is world-class. And that's kind of getting into that intelligent contextual marketing stuff. But, how are you doing with, let's say, lead generation? You might be undefined or progressive. This is a great way of understanding where you are and starting to set really good content goals for yourself for 2016. So I definitely encourage you to do that. And then what I want you to do is, as you're doing that, at step 2, I want you to say, I can't boil the ocean. I have to start somewhere. Journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. Pick one area that you can really focus on mapping out and creating those materials and mapping against everything we just said. The buyer's journey, the awareness cycle, awareness, consideration, decision, and doing that content map for yourself. So I want you to take one thing. In this example, I just said, let's just take, my goal is to get people to attend a conference for the first time. They've never done it. Okay, so acquisition to people who don't know us. I need more people. I need more butts in seats, as the best people like to say. And I need to say, what content assets do I have that I can help map out between the discovery, the consideration, and the decision-making phase, and put those things down, and then say, what do I need to gather? What do I already have? What can I start to map out? But this helps to give me governors, gives me some parameters, because if I look at my entire everything I'm trying to do in an association, I'm marketing a lot of products and services and offerings and benefits. It's multiple things. So let's just pick out one, because at least that will get us into the methodology and the pattern of it, and we can see if we can really have an effect on the metrics and create lift. So we're going to take one thing and get focused in on it and map it out for 2016. And then what I think we should do is I've left you with this chart as well, and I want you again to use this format to be able to map out what I'm actually going to do in my content plan. Where do these things fit? Where do these things fit, these ideas about where these things actually work in the funnel, and then make them into actionable, pragmatic, to-do tasks of how they're going to solve throughout my year and how they line up into the awareness, consideration, and decision piece of it. And I put in here publish date, my channel, so I'm really clear about where it's going to go. I'm thinking about my buyer persona. I might want some for people to be a first-time attendee, but I might have the marketing Mikes of the world, and maybe I have a different group. I have the amazing Adams of the world, and they're not on Twitter. So again, it can be channel specific, and I need to understand that. And I'm going to put down my message, or like what I'm trying to get across there, right? Put a content owner on it. Did I execute it or not? And then I can come back and start putting in results, okay? And that would therefore take all of everything we talked about this whole year and put it into one ideal kind of Excel spreadsheet here that we can all use. But at least it'll help me with my content planning and mapping and get me really clear. But I have to say, I got to pick out one thing, right? Because ideally, each one of those one things, new customer for this newly launched product, becoming a new member, the retention campaign for members, etc. I'd have one of these sheets for almost each one of these, if that makes sense. That would then bring me into a discipline that you don't hear much about in the association world, but I'm thinking you're going to start hearing about it soon, which is product marketing. And that is, again, how do I effectively market a particular product or service to create more revenue, okay? Which, again, is different. We're moving out of the world of just having communications as the association and starting to really split it out and having communications and having marketing and having these seen as separate functions. And that's something I think we're going to continue to see more and more as the years go by. So with that, last thought here is, as always, even when you're doing that, plan to measure. So as I'm creating my content plan for 2016 for this one particular, let's say, goal, put in how I want to measure it, what my measurement metrics will be, and then as I'm doing it, I want to make sure that when I do the measurement, I'm coming back to the plan. I cannot introduce new metrics after I've created my plan. I have to stick to the metrics that I started with, so I have a good baseline and then a good stopping point so I can look at the delta. Okay, I've got to be able to see change, and to do that, we're going to plan to measure and measure to plan. So that's hopefully some good recap of 2015 and a whole lot of homework for 2016. Again, all the materials are out there. But it's going to be an exciting time in 2016, and organizations have more and more examples of them going through this process and really having miraculous results. So with that, I bid adieu to everybody. Do good work, make today great, and happy holidays, and have a great new year.